From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe, which I think we need to take a little aside at this point and just explain something to everyone. So, we work on a bit of a backlog, and right now it seems likely we were very needy for emails. And you need to understand that we received emails from you people well before we got into this point of our podcasting life. And Michael, you get a clear pass. Yeah. You get a clear pass on all of this. We love you. Thank you for sending your email. We're very happy with everything.
All we can give you is this.
Yes.
Not a reply
and we're sorry.
To the email.
We're also very sorry that you had to sit through at least a month of us complaining of getting no emails.
That was just lucky.
That was, yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff, Michael. Anyhow,
yeah. We are your very satiated at this point podcast host, Taylor and Chelsea, here today doing a Chelsea episode, which I've strangely been given a script for.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to turn it over to Taylor.
Yes.
This is his episode.
Okay.
Don't start reading it. I'm kidding. Okay.
Audio 1. Blue.
No, stop it.
No? Okay.
You wait until I tell you to read that. Okay. I am so excited for this episode. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a couple episodes because shockingly, I couldn't fit this all into one episode. Every other podcast or YouTube that I've seen about this does, but we can't. It's too good of a story. We're too good of a podcast. Michael's here, so we're just going to have 3 episodes. Linda Napolitano's 1989 Manhattan Abduction claim is one of the most famous and most controversial alien abduction cases in UFO history. Her story blends high strangeness, political intrigue, and a web of alleged witnesses that continue to divide believers and skeptics alike. It is claimed to be one of the most credible and contested in all of history, perfect for a journey to the fringe. Let's start the story out with Bud Hopkins, a ufologist and the central investigator to this story, who definitely needs his own episode after this. So I'm not really going to touch on anything about him in this episode other than this.
And you guys will, in the next 6 years, learn about him.
Probably.
I think that's a fair window for us to put to ourselves.
Yeah. It still feels a little constrictive, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Because what if we don't do it?
It does. We're going to forget about him, honestly.
We probably will. So maybe forget that you heard that. He's probably one of the most renowned UFO investigators on alien abduction experiences. He's investigated hundreds of cases and wrote a bunch of books. Hopkins wrote a book about this whole experience that we're going to talk about with Linda Napolitano, which is called Witness: The True Story of the Brooklyn Bridge UFO Abductions. There is a Netflix documentary on this called The Manhattan Alien Abduction. In April 1989, Bud Hopkins receives a letter from Linda Napolitano. She's a resident of New York, and Linda had a lifelong interest in UFOs, and she wrote to him that she had begun reading his book Intruders and had remembered that 13 years earlier, she had detected a bump next to her nose.
Of course.
Yeah.
Don't you every now and then remember the bump beside your anything 13 years prior?
13 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, that bump in my nose.
I remember when I had that bump on my nose.
I'm going to write a letter to Bud Hopkins, of all people. It was examined by a physician who insisted that she had undergone nasal surgery. Linda claimed that she had never had such a surgery, and she even checked with her mom, who confirmed that. That would be the source to check with. Hopkins took an interest in the case because there was a potential for medical evidence and because Linda lived relatively close to Hopkins, which facilitated their meeting. Linda visited Hopkins and discussed her past experiences with him. She recalled some pertinent earlier events in her life, but believed that she was no longer directly involved with any abduction phenomena. Linda then began attending meetings of Hopkins's Hopkins's support group for abductees. And on November 30th, 1989, Linda called Hopkins and reported that she had been abducted during the early morning hours of that day. And she provided only a few details, so a few days later, Hopkins insisted that she undergo regressive hypnosis, which he's known for.
That's what you do.
Exactly. At the time of the abduction, just so that we're all on the same page here, Linda Napolitano, she's in her 40s, married, mother of 2. That night, Linda uncovers during hypnosis that she awoke in her 12th floor Manhattan apartment, sensing a presence in her room, a strange numbness in her feet that started to creep up her legs. She opened her eyes and saw 3 small gray beings standing beside her bed with large black eyes. She gets a telepathic command to stay quiet, followed by sudden paralysis.
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 I believe that is a Tool song. Paralysis.
I believe that's Italian for paralysis.
Of course. They did the paralysis song. It is so good.
A blue beam of light shining through her window lifted her out of bed, and from the bedroom she went through the living room, out the window, and the creatures followed alongside of her through the window with safety bars outside, 12 stories up, now levitating with all of the creatures in the blue light. She remembers thinking, I hope I don't fall. And all 4 of them are transported into a large, oval, reddish-orange spacecraft hovering near the Brooklyn Bridge, which opens up and, eats her like a clam. Once inside the craft, she describes being escorted down a hallway lined with benches, and she can hear, doors sliding open and closed. The creatures are speaking to each other quietly in a language she doesn't understand. They then enter a room with a long table in the middle. Linda panics, and in her head, she thinks she's saying, "What do you want with me?" But the words that come out of her mouth are in an alien language. It's a language she doesn't recognize.
Chelsea?
Yeah.
Is it by chance Italian?
It might be. It might be German.
No, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, There's a lot German
of
doesn't
options.
fit the theme so far that we've been going with.
I mean, if she's just not recognizing it, it could be... Who knows what language?
I'm just curious if it's convenient to our episode to this point.
It probably is, as we know
probably.
things to be convenient to our episodes.
That's how it usually works.
Yeah. So she's placed on an examination table, and a long medical instrument is forced into her right nostril. A creature then comes close to Linda, runs its hands through her hair, and places a warm hand on her cheek. I just don't picture an alien's hand to be warm. I don't know why. But this one's warm. It's a weird detail.
It is described as creepy, but they could have taken much worse steps if they wanted it to be truly creepy.
It's true. And nobody did describe it as creepy. I think you are.
No, it just feels creepy. I agree.
I know.
It could have been how you said it, but by this way. They're Italian, so they're just handsy. I get it.
She asks, "Why am I here?" I don't know what language this is being spoken in, and instantly Linda was able to move. She hears a loud roar and instantaneously is sitting up in her bed, and she tries to wake her husband, but he won't wake up. She then runs down the hall to her kids' rooms, who also will not wake up. They're apparently in a trance-like state. Though the experience would be traumatizing for anyone, Napolitano was reportedly not especially distraught over what happened. She claims that she was just used to what happening. Abductions were gaining popularity at the time. Whitley Strieber's book of his own abductions, Communion, had been published only a few years before. Travis Walton's experience has been common knowledge in UFO circles for over a decade at that time, both cases of which Napolitano was likely familiar, being a UFO enthusiast. However, even at 3 a.m., Brooklyn is far from sleepy. There are purported independent witnesses to this abduction. Some say a total of 23 witnesses. If this were true, it was the first time in the history of ufology that this has happened. Early summer the next year, another incident happens to Linda. She wakes up feeling something going down her throat and starts to choke. She goes outside to the hallway and the whole family is standing in the living room with nosebleeds. The aliens came back for her family. Bud does the hypnotizing on Linda's son as well, who said he was in a room that was all white and there were two really tall men who were very mean. He goes on to say that he had his own abduction experience, obviously, after that. And Bud is like, well, to confirm this, let's regress Linda. But this is kind of like just a side story to the whole thing. All in all, this kind of just goes towards the fact that Bud figures out that abduction experiences likely include entire families. This is like kind of a side thing, but you kind of need to know like her whole family is having abduction experiences along
fair
with
enough,
her.
yeah.
Not central to the story though. So let's talk about the bump on her nose. In November 1991, a doctor whom Hopkins describes as closely connected to Linda took an x-ray of Linda's head because she knew about the story of the nasal implant, which is the bump on her nose, being called nasal implant now, and because Linda frequently spoke of the problem with her nose. They're like, we're going to do an x-ray. The x-ray was not developed immediately, but a few days later, the doctor brought it to Linda and was very nervous and unwilling to discuss it. Linda took it to Hopkins, who showed it to a neurosurgeon friend of his, and the neurosurgeon was astounded. A sizable, clearly non-natural object could be seen in the nasal area. Hopkins has shown a slide of the x-ray during his presentations, and the implant is strikingly apparent, even to a lay audience. The object has a shaft approximately 1/4 inch long with a curlicue wire structure on each end. They did attempt to get it out of Linda's nose, however, the object mysteriously disappeared before removal. I couldn't track down an actual picture of this x-ray. I meant to go into the Netflix documentary and take a picture just so I could show you, Taylor, but I did not do that.
To be fair, most of the time when they're actually describing something like that, they're lying, so that's...
Well, there is an x-ray.
I know.
Okay.
I get that.
Okay. So, Hopkins refers to this image as the radiological smoking gun of alien implants. You do see it in there. There is an x-ray, apparently not anywhere else but the Netflix documentary of all places. But
that is why we all believe in aliens now, right?
Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. Netflix in this specific one episode.
Yeah, I mean, they are live streaming the moon thing coming back to Earth. So, what's it called again? Artemis?
Artemis 2, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was right. I just went with my gut instinct on that one. So, after working with Linda on her experience, Bud receives a letter, which is the audio number 1 that Taylor tried to read to you at the beginning, but here's the proper place. And he's going to read this letter to you.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Dear Mr. Hopkins, my partner and I are police officers. We have been in serious dilemma because of our strict profession and our lack of knowledge on this subject. About 3:30 a.m. in late November 1989, we sat in our patrol car underneath the elevated FDR Drive. There it was, a strange oval, hovering over the top of an apartment building, 2 to 3 blocks from where we were sitting. A very bright blue light coming out from the bottom of it. I yelled for my partner, who was just as excited as I was. We were going to get out of the car, but what would we do for that poor little girl or woman wearing a full white nightgown? She was floating in midair in a bright beam of whitish blue light, looking like an angel. She was then brought up into the bottom of that very large oval, about 3/4 the size of the building across. This poor person was escorted out of her window by 3 ugly but smaller human-like creatures. After she was up and in, the oval plunged into the river not far from the Brooklyn Bridge. Mr. Hopkins, the oval never came up from under the river. The guilt has lingered, and we find it difficult living with ourselves. My partner and I have been debating if we should seek her out. We know the building and we know the window. Perhaps she was just a figment of our imagination. Is she alive and well? We have to know. If we should decide to seek this person out, we'll contact you again with further information if we find her. And I hope we do. Many thanks, police officers Dan and Richard.
Yeah. So that's a weird letter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that actually, it reminds me because I This year I finished reading the first iteration of Where the Footprints End. And it specifically has a section on the woman in white, which is a very common trope going back in time for paranormal encounters.
Yeah.
Which fully encapsulates what this just was.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And I believe that there's been a lot of encounters with women in white that I've heard of.
Yeah.
Not knowing that that is in that book, I guess. So,
yeah.
After receiving the letter, Hopkins promptly called Linda and told her that she might expect a visit from 2 policemen. A couple of weeks later, after Bud receives this letter, he gets a call from Linda, who is shaken. Around 11 p.m., Linda got a knock on her door. Through the peephole, she saw 2 men dressed in dark suits, and they showed their badges and announced themselves as detectives. She was not too surprised because she reports that police frequently canvass her apartment complex looking for witnesses to crimes. These police officers were named Richard and Dan from the letter, and the visit was strange. After they arrived and entered her home, there was an emotional greeting, and they expressed relief that she was alive. Linda said Richard was very nice, but nervous, and Dan was quiet, distant, standoffish, maybe even seemed a little angry. At some point during their 30-minute visit, Richard almost broke down in tears. Linda asked Richard and Dan to call Bud Hopkins, but they said they didn't feel comfortable, even though they had already written to him. And not long after this, Bud receives another letter. And that's your audio too, Taylor.
Dear Bud, we're hoping that this audio tape is satisfactory. We don't know how it will help, but use it as you wish. We'll keep it in touch. Thanks, Dan and Richard. P.S. Linda is a darling little lady.
Obviously, accompanying this letter is a tape included with audio where Richard recounts the night Linda was taken and says they can't be identified. I found this to be a super weird detail, especially that they're saying use it however you wish. I hope it helps. I can't find an audio recording of this tape anywhere but Netflix, but I'm not sure exactly if it was an actual recording or a reenactment of the recording. So no audio for you. But the audio does exist, just recounting the story that they basically wrote in the first one. And a few weeks after he gets this audio, he gets a letter from Dan. And this is audio number 3, Taylor. You're working really hard on this.
Dear Mr. Hopkins, my name is Danny. You are acquainted with my partner Richard. I decided to get in touch with you after a long fishing trip. I'm not depressed anymore because Linda is alive. However, anger, fear, and embarrassment set in. Richard is dealing with these very same feelings in his own way. He remedies it by secretly watching Linda. Jesus. Bracket. I don't think she would like to know that. End bracket. No, she would not. Seeing Linda reinforces the reality of it all, and he doesn't feel crazy anymore. This doesn't work for me. When I see Linda, I tremble. I don't see reminders. I will never forget what happened for the rest of my life. That November incident was the worst time of my life. Seeing a UFO wasn't enough. We had to see some young woman being taken. What were they going to do to her? What could I do to help her? These thoughts were more than I could take. Did Richard tell you about our nightmares? Mr. Hopkins, I sleep with my pistol beside my bed. If they can take Linda, they can take me. Richie has the same fear. We understand that you need us to come forward because these people of yours are considered crazy. We know they aren't crazy, but to be honest with you, you're going to need more than 2 detectives to figure out what the hell has been happening to a lot of these people. Good luck in your investigation. If you ever stumble upon good, tangible evidence, be faithful to whomever you give it to. There's an obvious cover-up going on. Thanks for taking the time to read this very long letter. Sincerely, Danny. That is not a long letter. Sorry.
So, Bud Hopkins is like, I better track these guys down. So he goes around to the police stations, but to no avail. What makes him think they would just be like, oh, Danny and Richard? Those crazy guys that saw a UFO? Yeah, that's
but also,
them.
Richard, up until this point, who Danny had to say, like, abbreviated. Richard goes a little hard. I need to take myself back from this.
Yeah. Anyhow, figuring they're not actual police officers, he decides to wait it out. And boy, does that pay off, because he gets another letter. Danny and Richard just can't help themselves from sending Bud Hopkins letters. And that's audio number 4, Taylor.
Dear Mr. Hopkins, we are writing to you once again because of the utmost importance of what has to be said. There's much more involved. We were given permission to reveal more facts from a third party also involved in the November 1989 incident. This third party is a very important person and often speaks to many corners of the globe. Many, many weird dashes.
Turns out the official was rumored to be the UN Secretary General Javier Perez de Cuellar. Richard and Dan were working as a security detail for the Secretary General, and on that night in question, they were taking him to the heliport downtown when their car died on the way. And guess what? This third man writes Hopkins a letter, and it discussed ecological danger to the planet and Linda, indicating that aliens were involved in ending the Cold War. The letter ended with a warning to Hopkins to stop searching for the third man because it could potentially do harm to world peace. And this is where I'm going to end this episode, and I must warn you at this point, we're just getting started on the story. And you know what? I'm not going to ask your opinion at this point. Well, let's do it. Let's take a gander at what you think at this point.
It's hard to say just because they are they're not anonymous letters, but they are recurring letters with somebody who can't really check where they're coming from.
Okay.
Like he's not fact checking that these guys are police, and the fact that they've written this many letters in such a short period of time. I mean, it may be the 90s, but I can't remember the last time I wrote a letter, much less 4 letters in a year to one particular person.
Yeah, well, it is the 90s. I mean, we're writing chain letters, we're writing to everybody.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't want to be cursed. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it just seems weird.
And so, just to recap right now, we have Linda, who's been abducted, gets the hypnosis regression to figure out what's going on. And we do have the x-ray showing the implant in her nose. We have an audio recording of another witness. And we actually we haven't talked about it yet, but we have a total of 23 witnesses who did see the UFO. Some saw Linda coming out of her window. And I know this is a little late to be asking you about this. Have you heard of this story before?
I have, and I do still think that it's important to say that we don't know Linda's coming out the window. We know a woman in white, which is a weird trope within the UFO community, is coming out the window.
Okay, fair enough.
Could be Linda, we just don't know for sure.
Fair enough. Linda did go out a window by her account, but it could be a different window.
She says she did, yes.
Yeah. No,
I'm just saying she said she did. And
window.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, that's where we're going to end this one, and we'll see you back here next week to finish the story.
Okay, and just to keep it fair, you all need to forward this to at least 4 people you know, or you will be cursed, because it does seem on topic for what we're doing right now.
It's true.
Anyhow, I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
I will just put an aside here. I think Michael is exempt from that. Okay, bye.
Michael is exempt. Bye. Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.